Hi everybody, it's Miss Bet. So today we're going to be learning about citations, and we'll start off with a brief review here. So let's go over why we cite sources. So there's three main reasons why we want to cite the sources that we're giving in a paper. So the first one is we want to give credit to the author. If it's not our idea and we didn't come up with it, then it's really important to give the person who did credit for their own work. The second is going to be we want to avoid plagiarizing. So it looks really bad and makes our audience or our readers not trust us if we are citing information and don't give credit. And that's actually plagiarizing. We're taking work from somebody else that we didn't do. Third, we want to give our reader further information through those sources. So if they have any questions or want to look up more information, they can always follow those sources and go look them up online or look up the book themselves. So now that we've gone over a little bit of a review, let's go over quoted citations. So what is a quoted citation? Most often we'll see these using the little quote symbols around whatever was taken or put into the paper. So usually with a quoted citation, the text is taken directly from the source, and as you see in the bullet point, nothing is changed. So we're taking exactly what the author said and putting it into our paper as evidence to support our claim or our idea. But when we do that, we need to give that author credit because it isn't our idea and we didn't come up with it ourselves. So we'll give an example here. Through the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom Program, a number of associated sites along the route have been identified and preserved. And so you can see here that Berger is the author's last name, and it was listed on page 1. So then if I was reading this in a paper and I thought, that sounds interesting, I can go to the works cited at the end of the paper and look up the author's full name and the name of the work that this came from and get more information if I was interested in that. Our second example here, Stephen Hawking describes the climate at Oxford while he was studying there as very anti-work. So you can see again we have our citation, which is page 33. And this is something we'll discuss in another video a little bit about how we introduce sources. If we list the author's name here, so Stephen Hawking is who we're quoting, we don't have to put Hawking and then the author's first name, or for author's last name, and the page number. Since we already listed his name, we can just have the page number there so the reader would know where to look for that quote. And then the second example here on this part, it says the climate at Oxford during his studies is described as very anti-work. So again, they took out the Stephen Hawking and just cut it down to the climate at Oxford during his studies is described as very anti-work. So then we have to include Hawking's last name and the page number so the reader knows what source it's coming from. Next, we'll discuss paraphrased citations here. So what is a paraphrased citation? Most often, these do not use the little quotation marks. The text is condensed down in our own words, but it still must be cited. Just because you read 2 paragraphs and then condensed your information down into one sentence doesn't mean that those ideas that you read in those paragraphs were your own. You still have to give the author credit for that. So for me, it's easiest to remember when to use quotes or when to paraphrase, because paraphrasing can be difficult to know when we actually need to cite it. So typically, I try and think if it's something that the common person wouldn't know, then I need to cite it. For example, if I'm talking about the sun and how the sun shines during the day, and I'm condensing some information about that, most people or the common person would know that the sun shines it during the day and goes down during the nighttime. But if I'm talking about chemistry and all these different chemicals that go into one formula, the common person probably isn't going to know a lot about that. So if I'm condensing a whole paragraph about chemical makeup and how they contribute to make a formula, I probably need to cite that. So an example here, we can see the concept of hyperspeed reading describes a method for reading far more quickly than normal. It asks that readers guess what a text will say before they actually read each line. Other scholars doubt that readers can make substantial use of this technique, citing concerns like the lack of attention given to things one hasn't seen yet. So this example actually has both quoted citations and paraphrased in it. So we can see here at the top, this is a paraphrased citation right here by the Whittaker, page 45. So the author of this has described what the concept of hyperspeed reading is in their own words, but it's not directly quoted from the article that they're taking this information from. But we can see down here when he puts quotations around, guess what a text will say before they actually read each line, they have to directly cite that again because it's a quoted citation. So those are just a few examples in one paper where they're using both quoted citations and paraphrased. So we'll go ahead and move on to using citations in our papers. So we want to remember when we're using these citations, the three main rules that I try and remember always: to give the author, the original author, credit. We share information about where our reader can find the source, and we want to avoid plagiarizing. So again, I just also want to remind you, I'll be sharing another short video on how we introduce sources in writing, so be on the lookout for that. It'll probably be on Canvas. So I hope you guys will reach out to me if you have any other questions. Otherwise, I hope that you learned something about citations from this video, and please feel free to reach out if you need any help with your papers. Thank you, and have a great day.